afternoon, all. On behalf of IoT Academy, we welcome you all for the second session of National Faculty Development Program on ICT tools and innovative teaching techniques. Let me introduce the resource person of today's session, Dr. Pawan Kumar. Dr. Pawan Kumar is working as an assistant professor, Department of Triple E, Chaitanya deemed to be University, Warangal, Telangana. His qualifications include BTech, MTech, and PhD from Bharat Institute of Higher Education and Research. Dr. Pawan has 13 years of experience in the field of education. He handles various academic positions like Head of Department and NAC Coordinator. He has published several international journals and patents. He is also acting as a reviewer for International Journal of Research and Innovation in Applied Sciences. We welcome you, sir. And with this, we hand over the session to Dr. Pawan Kumar. So, please. Sir?
Yes, ma'am, is visible, audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible now, sir.
Okay, right. So it's a very good afternoon to the delegates, participants, and various doctorates who have joined this faculty development program. On behalf of IoT Academy, I would like to welcome you, and it is very my privilege to have a small brief session on the innovative teaching techniques. And it is I was very much thankful to this IoT Academy for giving this opportunity. So once we go through this innovative teaching methodologies, techniques, so most of all those who are attended for these sessions are almost the doctorates and having their own perspectives regarding their educational concepts. But once we see the past history of this education, so on the past history of the education doesn't have any very less ideology. So in the meanwhile, in the past history, no one knows the importance of the education. But as the era the world passes on and the technology goes on, the role of education becomes a pivotal role which helps the economic growth of the nation. So by creating more opportunities in the case of employment as well as the industrial growth. So the education is also revolves around getting the vast amount of knowledge into the learner. So it is not only develops the knowledge, but also the knowledge applicabilities. So that really suits to the practical environment, which is very nearer to you and which is very helpful to the industry as well as to the society. So in this process of evolution, so the learner's knowledge is going to be increased from one level to the another. So meanwhile, the education is in the state of transition. That means nowadays the education is going to be transformed, and in now present the situation is a transition. So where, see here, still the old method of teaching is called it is an questionnaire. That means the teacher will speak and other students will, or the students or the scholars will always listen, only one way communication most of the time. Now that was converting into a new method that is called a learning process, in which both the teacher and the students are involving to complete or to fulfill the task of the institutions, or to fulfill or to enhance the knowledge of the learner. So that means it is transforming from one era that is called questionnaire. That means here only the teacher speaks. Now it is being transformed into the learning, where both the teacher as well as the student shares the information. That is called advocated, so that it is nowadays it is replacing that one. But once it is still, when we observe it in the practical time, still it is not completely transformed into innovative methods. Still some of the cases where we are mixed in now, that means we use the old tradition as well as the new tradition. That is we are still in the transition state. But once we are in the still in the transition state, whatever the biggest challenge of any teacher is, the capturing the students attention and putting across ideas in such a way that it stays with them, so that it's the ideology what the teacher has been taught in the classroom, that must be always understandable to the student even after the class is completed. That is the biggest challenge of any teacher, because nowadays when we observe in a practical session, we just give the sessions and we just complete the sessions, or we deliver the after delivering the lectures. When we recollect back what is the yesterday's class, then when we ask in the today's class what about the yesterday session, most of the students didn't answer it. So this is the biggest challenge of any teacher, that how to improvise their knowledge levels. So that in that perspective, classroom experiences must be redefined. So with and redefinition must be implemented with the innovative ideas, so that the teaching the learning methods will be more effective. So that means this is the main task of any teacher, that what we taught in the classroom, that should be remembered throughout when we left of the class. But most of the cases, when we go for to yesterday's class, when we want to recollect it, but most of the students didn't answer it. So that is the biggest task of a teacher, how this should be, how this problem should be solved. So still, to in order to solve it, or in order to make your lecture as your visualization, so some of the innovative methods must be implemented in the educational institutions. This implementation of methods not only increase the potential of the teacher, but also improves the educational point of view, and also the empower the students knowledge, so that it helps the society and the human development goal for the country. So this innovative teaching will helps the improvement of both as personal as well as the societal impact. So therefore, innovative teaching is methods are nowadays becomes most effective and more important in the in the field of education. Now let us see when this what is innovative teaching means. Simply we can say creativity and novelty of the teacher, which changes the style and method of teaching. So this creativity and novelty depends upon the knowledge level of the teacher. So generally, the creativity means if in a fashion, if the students does not understand, so I can change the method of teaching, or I can go for any other method, so that it is easily understandable. So this the method depends upon the teacher creativity. Now, since this is necessary for the present future of education, which helps students to reach their full potential. So innovative teaching will helps the present generation students to work on their full potential. So also, not only this innovative teaching is not only necessity for all the teachers, but also to meet the educational needs of the new generations. But, however, teachers' competency is a key factor influencing innovative teaching performance. So, now let us take this teachers' innovative teaching methods depends depends upon the teacher's implementation and teacher's working nature. So in order to adopt the teaching in innovative methods, so when we go for the classifications of this case, now there are teaching methods are generally of two types, that is conventional teaching methods and the non-conventional teaching methods. So that is non-conventional teaching methods is also called as innovative methods. Now, when we look back into our traditional method, that is called conventional teaching methods, so which is also known as the customary teaching or back to basics. Now, this is refers to a teaching method which involves instructors and students. That means here the teacher only speaks and the students will sit and gather the information either by running writing the information on their notebook, so and sitting and listening. So these are generally teacher directed, where students are taught in a manner that is conducive to sitting and listening. So the information gathered by the teacher generally depends upon where we will took from the textbooks or somewhere notes, and memorization of the previous classes, and different techniques the teachers will study and will implement on the board. But in this conventional method, what the problem we will see is the student will never think about the information what you are giving. They are simply they are writing on their notebook, and then don't think what the information is given by the teacher. So they stop thinking what the information is given by the teacher. So they try to adapt the information which was on the blackboard. It was simply converted into their notebook. So the problem with this conventional methods is still we think that the student has understood our class, but the student, instead of understanding the class, he prefers to write on their notebooks, not on to understand what we are saying. So generally the information what we are giving will collect from all the textbooks or previous cases and lecture notes. So we follow general things. Here what happens is, we instead of thinking so what the teacher is saying, and instead of understanding the concept, the student prefers to write whatever they thinks that is present on the board. So this is about the conventional teaching methods. So once we look after these characteristics of conventional methods, what this is thing is the teacher itself decides the course of learning. In the conventional method, what we generally teacher follows the curriculum. So the teacher usually follows the curriculum, and the teacher does not goes beyond the curriculum point of view despite of their time. So most of the this we know that in most of the educational institutions, teachers are busy with their hectic schedule. So due to this schedule, what the teacher prefers is to says everything which was present in their curriculum. They never go beyond the curriculum. So that means the teacher itself decides what to say, and what the information to be present in the classroom, and what the information should be present as an assignment, what the information should be present in another as in the form of a seminars. That means the teacher itself decides the course of learning. Though the syllabus is present, that is curriculum, still sometimes the curriculum may be huge, so that the teacher cannot himself adjust the curriculum also. So that is the characteristics of conventional method. Is the first one is the teacher decides the course of learning. Next, due to the hectic curriculum or hectic schedule of a teacher, now what the thing is, the interaction among the students is less. So that means all the students who are present in the class will become passive, not active. Only the teacher is active who was delivering the lecture, whereas the all the students will become silent and tries to understand it. So therefore between the interaction between the students is almost zero. So only one way of communication is going to take in the conventional systems. We the teachers will think that the interaction, the information which was given is sufficient to them, and they have the understand the concept very well. But their ideology, we don't think about their point of view, where they have struck or where they are facing the problem. So next one is good behavior based on extrinsic motivation. This is very simple and it's a very common thing. See, most of the teachers, what we follow is generally, if the class is disciplined, now we used to take more information, or we used to deliver more information. And if it is the class becomes disturbed or any mischievous things, we try to reduce this information. That means the behavior of the students depends upon the depends or influences the amount of information delivered by the lecturer or the concerned faculty. So that means the behavior of the students also, we generally think if that is a common thing that we usually face in every class. And The thing another one is learning from memorization. So learning from memorization means generally we when we take more number of classes, or we usually to take the continuous common subjects for several years. So that means we used to take a particular subject for the past 3 to 4 years. So what the teacher will do is, instead of preparing or planning a new concept, so they used to take the same old concept which was already memorized from his memory. So the same old concept is also already delivered to the students. So moreover, now the learning the becomes is abstract. So there is no full fledged learning in the case of your conventional methods. So based this the learning depends upon the information that is provided by the faculty. If the faculty gives more and more information, so the learning will become so in-depth learning. But if most of the teachers will give an overview, then the learning will become an abstract learning or the overview. And moreover, the learning will becomes always a theoretical. That means when we say anything about that, we generally used to take a concept and we used to explain the concept. But beyond that concept, there are some other concepts are also be there. For example, what are these, such as applications of that concept, where do we use that, and how does this applications in used for in reality. So these things are beyond the curriculum. These cannot be in general cannot be explained by some of them. That means sometimes we will use the information. So that becomes the learning is only the theoretical part. So when these conventional methods of your teaching field, so these are all the common things that we can see by a faculty. Now, how when we see about the strategies, so that is called conventional teaching strategies. So we generally prefer these different methods, that is five different methods. One is the lecture method, and b second one is the discussion method, and the third one is a memorization, and the fourth one is a seat work, and next one is students learn through listening and observation. These are the five general conventional teaching strategies will be followed by the teacher. So first one among them is the lecture methods. So most of the teachers will still feels that it will the lecture method is the effective tool of teaching, because this is true for certain subjects also, like the mathematics. So where we used to generally you go for the blackboard only instead of giving all this another adaptive innovative methods. This is true for the certain subjects also. Now here the professor or the teacher influences or explains the vast study materials, and the information delivered by the teacher or the faculty is in a huge way. That means a large information will be delivered by the students by a faculty. Now, so that if all the information is there given by the teacher, then automatically the student will never thinks about the complications or about the extensions of a particular topic, which significantly reduces the burden on the student. Now when you see this lecture method, there are some advantages as well as the disadvantages. Now the lectures can be used to meet the specific needs of the audiences. Now, so when you see is the lectures, that means some people will try to visualize or try to grasp the information which was learning for that. So the specific needs of the audience. So that means certain people of these audiences or students can be benefited through this lecture method, not all the students. Now since can be used to condense huge amount of information, so therefore the information gathered already is present to this with the student is sufficient to re-exhibit. Now so this is the lectures can appeal to the students who learn to be listening. The disadvantages is this suitable for only effective communicators. See, the problem with this lecture method is if the faculty is poor at its communications point of view, now the lecture method will goes on completely wrong, and moreover it is not effective also. So meanwhile, in this case of lecture method, only the teacher is going to take the class while other students will become passive, so that there is no perfect feedback for the teacher. So, and also the teachers may have a fallen presume that the whatever the information that is presented in the class is completely understood by every students, as the knowledge levels are the same. That is our presume of here the faculty. So another method is your discussion method. So here the discussion method of conventional teaching is Socratic method. That means we use the class to be prepared well by the students before the class commences. That means before going to discussion, the faculty or the teaching or the professor will ask the students to come and some to gather some amount of information for tomorrow's topic. That means this method demands the students come to class well prepared. So now they think out their arguments in advance to answer their questions and counter arguments. So here, once you ask the students to come with the proper information before the topic commences, later on stage we will say when the discussion in this discussion starts, now every students will ask the shares their opinions, which leads to the argumenting. Instead of going to further discussion, it will be converted into the arguments and the counter arguments. Now it thus provides with the fundamental skills necessary for success in any discipline or profession. So these are the general methods that we will adopting in our common teaching cases. So when you see this discussion method, so there are some advantages and disadvantages also there. So that means here the advantages is the participation of everybody. That means each and every student will involve in the presentation or discussion methodology. So in the common lecture method, only the teacher is there while others are passive. Here the students will become an active, and here the self learning will be started by the student. Now once the self learning is started, now which makes the learning process as interesting. So, and due to this learning process, now the development of your thinking or enhancement of knowledge will goes on, starts developing. But whereas these are the advantages, but certain disadvantages also there. So the thing is, all types of subjects cannot be taught through this. So that means, for example, as your mathematics, this cannot be holds good because mathematics needs only the practice, not instead of your theoretical concept. So, and also this methodology is certain useful for a higher level of education, but not belongs to your primary levels. So meanwhile, while you are in a discussion methodology, we observe that certain students may not follow the rules, so which may violate, and it will becomes the discussion methodology into arguments. So this is what the one of your disadvantages. If the teacher does not operate or does not monitor properly, the discussion methodology or method will be converted into arguments among the students. So this will becomes a little bit hectic to the teacher. And moreover, few people will try to speak and a few people will not speak, and here the domination may occurs. That means those who have the higher voice, they try to dominate the others people opinions. So therefore this will becomes a little bit difficult task. So when we are in the case of a this is a discussion methodology. Now, meanwhile, when this happens, the teacher may not be able to handle and provide the true leadership in the discussion. So, if this happens, that means if discussion is converted into either arguments, only few people dominates the others. We, the teacher, cannot be able to identify the true knowledge or the true leadership of the students, because it will becomes only one way communications. So these are the some of the advantages and disadvantages of your discussion methods. Now, so let we will see here the advantages about the conventional teaching, and that is called innovative advantages and disadvantages. So now conventional teaching is somewhere better in a quick manner. That means we can now provide a full-fledged informations, and the teaching learners who learn best by listening. That means this is suitable for the students who grasp their knowledge by listening instead of their any other methods. And it is more cheaper than your when compared with your modern teaching technologies. So still it has subjects like mathematics or chemistry. These are suitable for still nowadays it is suitable for blackboard. So now disadvantage becomes is only the learners who have the ability to learn through listening only they are get benefited, but not all the learners. So, and if your class, this is the most important thing, if your class continues only up to 50 minutes or 1 hour, it is very easy to deliver the lecture, and we can maintain sufficient concentration on the subject for the student. But if your class goes beyond your prescribed defined hours, then it is difficult to keep the learner's attention on the subject. So now this is the approach. The simple in this method, the student does not think about a concept. They just to try to write on the black notes itself. Now the approach assumes that all learners learn in the same interpersonal way. So what we will think it is, so all the learners, that means all the students have understood the concept. This is the assume or the approach we will think. But actually, this is the different will be happened. Now, when coming to your non-conventional teaching methods, which is also called as your innovative or modern teaching methods, right? So these are generally learner self-directed. That means the conventional methods are the teacher-centered. Now this will becomes the student-centered methodologies. Now, since the as the technology progresses, now ICT has made many innovations in the field of teaching, and also makes a drastic change from the old methodology of teaching and learning. So this modern method is effective because the learner learns through your case and becomes independent learner. So this is the case, and the sum of the non-conventional or the new innovative techniques is, yeah, first one is peer assisted learning, problem and next based learning, and team based learning, and next one is small group discussions and flipped classroom projects and computer assisted method of teaching. So these are the sum of your innovative methodologies. Now let us discuss one by one in this case, that is peer assisted learning. Now this system is generally adopted in your British higher education system in the 1990s. It is considered as a student to student support system. So now in these systems, so what we will do is some students are identified as your peer assisted learning leaders within their classroom. Now, just like as a class representative, we will select some of the leaders as peer assisted learning leaders within the classroom. So the selection of these leaders must be depends upon their academic brilliance and the communication skills, right? So based upon their academic brilliance and communication skills among the students, some of the students will be selected as a peer assisted learning leaders. Now for the peer assisted learning leaders, the teachers will train the concepts. So and these leaders are responsible for the other people to make effective learning in a classrooms. So this is what your peer assisted learning, which is more effective in your British educational system. But still we have some struggles in the case of your peer assisted learning. So now what is the function of the PAL leaders means, So once we have selected of these leaders, now they are trained for their role at the beginning of the semester with an induction course. Now a small induction course will be given to this. They will be trained. So they will be acting as the group leaders for another people. So they are trying to learn or give the information or train the other students, right? So that they can enhance the knowledge of this. In this methodology, the teacher will become a tutorial role. That means the teacher will always guides the PAL leaders, and the teachers will observe the performance of the PAL leaders. That means each student, or that is called a coordinator, PAL coordinator. For that PAL coordinator will be appointed, a faculty will be appointed as a coordinator. Now the coordinator will observe the performance and their feedbacks and their instructions and everything regarding this course. But in this case of peer assisted learning, the problem associated with this in our education system, we generally see it, there will be some egoistic problems among the students. So when this arises, these leaders, peer assisted learning will becomes ineffective. So it is a very responsible of a faculty to select such a leaders, those who are academically brilliant and not good communication skills. Not only that, but also their regularity, that means their attendance and their behavior. So based upon their coordination with that, these leaders must be selected. Otherwise, this learning will become ineffective in our systems. So now the next, what is the function, what is the advantages of this system is the peer assisted learning program creates a better teaching learning environment for the students to learn the subject. So that means instead of a faculty teaching the subject to the students itself or themselves, some of the students themselves are trained in a particular course, and they behave as a teachers, and they used to train their own members or the students. Now students have the option to learn only what is required for them and do not need to attend the topics which they are already well versed with. So this, when you created a PAL leaders, now what this option is, this selection of the topic depends upon their group, the leader and their members. Now here, based upon their topic that they have chosen, the sufficient knowledge will be imparted on the PAL leader or amplified by using sufficient training for them. So after giving the training to this leader, this student, the leader student, will give the information or pass the information to their group. So this is a choice based of your students. So when we say it, actually, what the thing is, we usually follow when in our curriculum we have professional electives and open electives. So, what actually we used to take is those electives are selected by the teachers, but actually the electives are given to the students. So the students itself has to select based upon their knowledge or their interest. But in knowledge, in our regular or routine methodology, what the electives are selected by the faculty itself. So even if they are interested or not interested, or even if they face difficulties, there is no option for them to change it. This was most of the institutions they are following, but now they are going to change that environment. Now students in this methodology can learn both basic and complicated concepts. So right from their selection of course, right from the basics to the advancements can learn. So this is, and also their leaders are able to share simpler and better techniques of learning which can boost their performances. Now what we have trained them leaders is, now after gets trained with the leaders simply turn these complicated techniques into their known simplified techniques, and that techniques will be transformed to the other members of their groups. So this is about the case of peer assisted learning. And next one is the problem based learning. So here the problem based learning is a total education strategy based on the principle of your real world problems. Now here in this case, now what we will happen is, now in this case what problem based learning is, one problem is given to a group of people. So now this for this problem, now what is the solution that was given in our curriculum? So this is what we will see is, so through this problem based learning, the development of critical thinking skills and problem solving abilities and communication skills can be improved. So in this problem based learning, so a small group of learners are placed together. That means the entire section or class will be divided into small groups. Now each students take a role within the group. So there each student have their own information, and this is focused on the students reflection, and based upon their role, their duties and the reflections of the responsibilities will be changed, and which will be improved their own learning. Here the problem based learning is an centric, that is the student centric learning, in which for which a group of people we will post a problem. So when we look after it, the problem based learning is constituted of four methodologies. First one is problem based learning principles and the different formal principles, and after that principles and what is your method of analysis what you are going, and finally what the how they solve this approach, that means how the methodology will be implemented to solve the problem based. Now when coming to the first part, that is PBL principles, it these can be implemented through four methods generally, that is constructive learning and collaborative learning and contextual learning and self directed learning. So what is constructive learning means, here the students build knowledge through experiences. So in general, when we are delivering a class, we used to give some examples. So these examples may reflect their own lifestyles. So through that, they can experiences through their experiences they can gain the knowledge. So in this constructive learning, the teachers play a facilitation role. So in this constructive learning, learning becomes a social activity, and the learning becomes an active process. So for example, when you take the project evaluation, here in the case of project evaluation, the guide or the becomes a constructive role, that is facilitation role only, where the student has to gain their knowledge with their own experiences or own difficulties or own understanding. So the next one is the collaborative learning. So here in this collaborative learning, we make the people into group of pairs, and we used to get the group discussions. Now here the important thing is, in the case of collaborative learning, it is to necessary to establish the type of behavior that will be expected from learners for them to benefit most from this type of activities. So here in the case of collaborative learning, we are going to make small groups for the students, but we are giving the task. So it is the responsibility of the faculty. The task should be useful to a group of members. So this is what the main task of your case. Next one is the contextual learning. So in this contextual learning, based on a constructive theory of a teaching and learning. So here the teachers able to present information in such a way that students are able to construct meaning based on their own experiences. That means in the case of contextual learning, now what they will do, the teacher will give the outright or summary of the concept. So based upon the summary of the concept, so the students must create the links between these concepts and try to develop their own creativity, their own knowledge levels. So generally this contextual learning will be developed or will be implemented with the help of your PowerPoint presentations also. And next one is the self-directed learning. Now in the case of self-directed learning, now itself the name itself indicates the self-directed. So the students itself, they are themselves plan or they'll search the primary. So who's their plan, continuing and evaluating learning experiences. That means the student himself will plan, execute their own strategies. So these are the four general basic problem-based learning principles will be evolved. And in this case, different types of groups will be formed among the different people will form their groups, and they have their own roles. The roles which is role played by the group members is one member can be acted as a tutor, one member can be acted as a chairperson, observer. So these group member are board writer. So that means these are the different activities that can be done, or they monitorized what the group task should be done. So among the different members, these can be different formalities can be used. And then next one is method of analysis. So in the method of analysis, we use generally three types, that is brainstorming, right? So concept mapping and mind mapping. So this brainstorming is allows students to think critically about ideas and solutions, and then form connections and share ideas with your friends. So that means this helps to express their views or ideas without fear or failure. So brainstorming sessions means we generally used to group together and ask the students to present their own views or ideas regarding a particular problem. So therefore, by continuing this process, each and every individual will try to participate in the sessions, so that first of all the failure and the fear of a concerned student can be removed. And next one is the concept mapping. Here the concept the only given to is regarding this problem making along with this concept also. That means we used to give some concepts and ask their present their views on the concept, whether maybe it is a yes or no, and later on that will be evaluated by the teacher. So mind mapping. So in this mind mapping, now it is a non-linear visual brainstorming session that helps to students study and professors teach. That means here, so mind mapping will give the undotted lines. So that means there are some points which are unconnected. So now the student has to do a proper connections for them and to make a concept. So this is what we will do in the case of your mind mapping. So overall implementing this, these are the 7 methods that can be approached. The first one is what is your problem, that makes to be contextualized, and that should be case. And next one is how that problem, next one is formulate the problem definitions. So simplify this problem. And next one is analyze the problem. And after analyzing, you need to restructure and mapping, and after that formulating the goals, and after that individual research and study, and finally the evaluation of your learning process, that is the solution that can be explored through this problem based learning structures. And next one is the team based learning. So in the case of team-based learning, it's simple to this small group, all is a group only. But here, the application of knowledge in class, that means we will give objectives. Here, the teacher establishes the learning objectives and chooses the problems on which the students will focus. But after that, then the teacher will act as a guide while team works toward the solution, the problem. So meanwhile, in the case of problem-based learning, on every case, the problem is not given by these majority times the problem is chosen by the students or leaders, but in the case of team based learning, the teacher himself will give the a particular problem. So now in this case the problem, and then they act as a guide. Now after that, group should be properly formed. Here the majority, the important thing is, in all the concepts we are making the group of people, but here the most important thing is, while you are making the groups, they should be properly formed. If they are irregularly formed, then this what is the objective to achieve, or that means only one section of the people will gain and another section will remain, like that only. So and Students are accountable for this pre-learning. Whatever these innovative methods, the students are accountable, and the students' involvement is very important for their pre-learning and working in teams. And what the teacher has to assign the team assignments, and which leads to the learning and team development. So after this, in this case, students must receive the frequent and immediate feedback. So that means every week wise or 15 days, the team performance should be evaluated by concerned faculty member, or then they should their feedback should be known given to these members. So when you see the step cycle of team-based learning, so the first one is before the class enters, that is pre-class. That means where there is a tomorrow's class. Let us think. Now today's class, what we will do is independent study. The each student must study and prepare for a concept which related to the basic concepts, and after that the classes will commences. Now once the classes commences, now initial stages they work on the simple problems, which is of duration. Generally it is 45 to 75. That is the class time may vary from 1 hour to 1.5 hours. So initial cases they work on the simple problems by conducting the individual test, this group test, and then written appeals, right? So then written appeals, and the next one is tutor clarification. So now what we will use to this, after the preparation, first I will conduct the individual test. I will find out the individual performance, and then after I found out make into groups, some test will be conducted regarding the group wise, and after that written appeals, so their knowledge levels, and finally the tutor who was allocated for them will clarify their doubts, and finally their evaluation will be presented. So then after, if your class is ours continuously, after basic analysis, if you are perfect, later on stages we will work on the complex problems, where these problems related to the applicational basis. These are all into the theoretical concepts, where in ordinary class of times, in your one after that, for extension of classes which is of nearly 1 to 4 hours it is required. So now under this case, application of oriented activities, that means whatever they have learnt in theoretical, that is going to be applied in the case of your practical case. So after this classes will be going on, and final stage of this, the revaluation process will be given by a teacher or a tutor. So this is how the step cycle of your team based learning. So initially they have to work it out, thereafter they have to individual test will be accessed, and finally after group they are confirmed that the groups are perfect, then they are going to work on your application based. So after that application based, their performances are reviewed by each and every person, and after this tutor also will be evaluated after completion of the class. So and finally this all we know, that is a small group discussions, right? So which provides opportunities for students to speak in front of others and to receive feedback from teachers and friends. So now these small groups can be effective learning situation in which students learn from their teachers and interaction with each other. So by conducting the small group discussions, the shy and less articulate are more able to contribute. So and also the students learn from each other. So and finally, sorry, a two-way discussion is almost always more creative than individual thoughts. So this is achievement from your small group discussions. And when you implement the strategies also will be there for small group discussions. So what are the different strategies? Collaborative mind mapping. So collaborative mind mapping means you are using the web applications such as Google Documents and etc. So in communicate, which is useful to communicate the ideas. So whatever their case, whatever their information they are shared, whatever the doubts they have, the students can post their questions for discussions in mind maps. That means using your softwares or Google Docs, we can share the information, or like a chat box we can share the information, or we can clear the doubts also. Next one is think pair share. It is a collaborative learning strategy in which students work together to solve a problem or answer a question about an assigned reading. Here, that means in this think pair share, so the students are matched according to their knowledge levels. So one problem will be given to this, and there they think individually about a topic, and finally they share their ideas with their classmates, and they will finally evaluate the solution for the given problem. And next one is the simple jigsaw. So here five, it is a groups of five members will be made. So this group is given a general topic to discuss, and each participant takes a turn discussing it from the viewpoint of their unique reading. Simple learning, but here group debates like we will comes into the case of jigsaw. And here also the debates is there. So here the similarity those of simple jigsaw, but here the debate will take the organized fashion. Where in the simple jigsaw, those who want to argue, that means who want to not who want to deviate with their the previous person's view, they can raise their hand, they can go for it and to counter the given initial persons. But in the case of debate, it is an organized structure. So the next one is the flipped classroom projects. A flipped classroom is an instructional strategy, and it is a type of blended learning that reverses the traditional learning environment. Now what we will see is in this case, right? So tomorrow before coming to the class, this is out of class, this is in class. So before the class, now there is no sharing of information in class. Now while coming the tomorrow's class, the students are instructed to learn some topic, right? For tomorrow's topic to gather some information. So now the students will get the new concepts through the media or the through browser or web, and thereafter in during the class, instead of the delivering the class, that concept was discussed among the students. And next one is, or we can keep 1:1 interactions with the teacher, so that the exchange of informations can be shared, and this information can be stored by the students, and it is very easy to understand. And later, while discussions after discussions, some more questions will be raised, and the questions will be answered again after the class, which is out of the class. So now again the students will go and search for the right the answers which was posted in the class, and finally they are going to get the solutions for that case. So this is about your flipped classroom projects. And next one is the computer assisted method of teaching. So it is an approach to teach and learning in which computer technology is there. So everything that means we will promote to your system, that is your YouTube or when is the case. So now this promotes the interactive learning and the educational management. So the advantages is we can through computerized, we can motivate the learners and provides the consistency in presentation. And moreover, the important advantage is according to their knowledge level of the students, that kind of presentations or concept will be presented according to their knowledge. So that means and can present concepts or process dynamically and using multiple forms, and provides minimum records of the performance, and immediate feedback can be provided. These are the advantages of your computer aided studying. But disadvantage is we need to require the computer system, that is equipment which is not suitable in all the areas, especially in the rural background areas. And in the, if it is a software oriented concept like Byju's that is there, that will become say as a costly. And meanwhile this is a development to takes to reach the at the end of the student, at the lower level of the student, it takes time and money, and it is not compatible for every student. See, some people will try to understand by seeing it, some people will try to organize by visualizing it, some people will make their knowledge using listening it. So it is not compatible for every student. So for also, in order to train the students, the teachers also must be require some sort of training in order to teach the students. So now this is some of the methods of your non-conventional advanced methodologies. So let me look after ESA advantages and disadvantages of your cases. Now these are considering as very effective learning tool, and also it also will produces to long term knowledge also. So and it is helpful or effective for the students who don't work solo. That means some people are not interested to do the work individually. So for that kind of people or students, these computer or these innovative methodologies will effectively work. And these methods will implement or increases the teamwork and interpersonal communication skills. Though they have the many advantages, still some of the disadvantages also will be there. That is, the students has to be well prepared for the lecturers. This is not possible for every time, and not effective for the large group of students. If the student session is about 30 to 45, it is very effective. If your increases to 60, it will little bit difficult. Students who are academically strong may provide more input and have a better participation than other students. So which creates imbalance among the students. See, when we ask in practical, just we will see it. When we are asked to those who are interested to give any task, who are willing to do, we observe only few people are always coming forward to do that particular task. So therefore such kind of activities will create the imbalance of your uh, classroom environment. So when we see is the conventional teaching and non-conventional teaching in perspective of content, so the content is always restricted by the curriculum, whereas the learners access on limited information. The topics are strictly isolated and they may not be related also. Whereas the non-conventional cases, learners has their own choice, and learners can access what amount the information they can do it, and they can choose the subjects also. They can choose, as well as the high level and different types of analysis and different types of material can be provided in the case of non-conventional teachers. Next, when considering the instruction point of view, the teacher is the information giver and helps in acquiring skills. That means the whatever the information reaches by the student, it is only through the teacher, right? But here in the non-conventional teaching, the teacher is only the facilitator. Now that means only the all the things is done by the innovative methodologies. So in this case of instruction is an instructive process, where in this case of non-conventional teaching, it is a constructive process, right? So the learners complete the short isolated activities and lessons. Now when coming to the classroom environment, conventional method in case all the students will become passively, and learner students will work individually, there is no teamwork. But in the case of non-conventional, it will be active role will be played, as well as the intercommunication skills will be increased, and moreover the teachers and as well as the students will collaboratively work to perform a task. Next, assessments are, the teachers are primarily accountable for learner learning. That means the assessment only done, sorry, the teachers are only primary accountable for learning. That means the assessment can only done by only by the teachers. But here the assessment can be done by the teachers as well as the learners. Sorry, the conventional teaching methods only few things, that is direct instruction and lecture. And next one is students learn through only the listening and observation. So that means the students acquire the knowledge by these two only. But in this case of advanced, this hands-on activities by using a practical and student ideology, which leads to student-led discovery and the group activities. That means the knowledge can be acquired by these three activities. So finally, the conclusion can be done this, traditional teaching methods have been used for as well as the centuries, but it is very important to change from conventional teaching methods to the adaptive methods, so that tasks do poorly, so that to improve the educational levels or the educational standards of the teaching professions, so that the students can acquire more amount of knowledge and becomes the more active in the real time world. So thank you for giving these opportunities. Yes, ma'am.
The session is open for discussion now. You can unmute and interact with the resource person, or you can post your questions in the chat box. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Myself, Dr. M.S. Murthy.
Yes, sir.
I'm the assistant professor in Ushodaya Master of Education College,
Yes, sir.
Chodavaram, Andhra Pradesh
Yes.
State.
Yes, sir.
Excellent, sir. Excellent session. It is very useful to me and my students also.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir. Thank you very much. If it is possible, please send your email address, sir, or phone number, sir, please.
Sure, sir. Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Any queries, participants, you can post in chat box also. Dear participants, do you have any queries? You can post it in chat box also. I'll read it to sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Pawan Kumar sir, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Sir, actually, in the flipped classroom,
Yes, sir.
the students are not able to concentrate and give the right answers. So, what is the
Yeah.
best way to collect the right answer? Because the concentration levels are very low in the online teaching. So,
Yes, sir.
what is the best way to extract under flipped classroom?
Sir, this is not about the online classroom teacher. Now, what we will do is generally, uh, we will assign a task to the group of students that you should, for example, generally we used to talk in every classroom, sir. Tomorrow's
Hmm.
topic is there. Please come and prepare this.
Hmm.
So while preparation, many of the students does not go through any preparation, sir. But so what we will do is
Ah.
we make themselves as groups and ask them to prepare and come.
Hmm.
So when we assign them, now what they will go on the preparation. So when we are going preparation, we will analysis, right?
Hmm.
Whether your preparation goes in a correct way or wrong. If it
Okay.
is wrong, we will discuss the same thing in the classroom.
Hmm.
No, this is not the correct way, and you should be going in this way to discuss.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
later we will correct them in the classroom. After correction again, we will again pose some questions to
Okay.
make the correct answers. Again, out of the class, after completion of the class, the students still go and search and get the questions and answers. Generally, when we see it up in IITs and NITs, all this will go the same manner, sir. So because the students itself, but in our cases, the students in our institutions, the students' knowledge is little bit difficult, very low.
Mm.
So for that reason, what we have to do is we have to monitor continuously.
Mm.
That is the problem little bit faced by the teacher is we need to monitor the group of people consistently.
Mm.
So whether they are working, we should not leave them alone.
Mhm. Mm.
So that is in the case of flipped classroom. If the flipped classroom does not work, so we just go on the presentation areas or in the case of group discussions. So
Mm.
that we can choose the another methodology. So,
Okay.
but that depends upon the everything depends upon your curriculum, sir, and
Mm.
your schedule of your preparation and the
Mm.
students' involvement. This is all depends
Okay.
upon these three timing because if the time is sufficient, everything will be possible.
Mm. Okay.
So just in these cases, we need to monitor them consistently, sir.
Okay.
Liquid classrooms.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Fine, sir.
Sir, anything else, sir?
Thank you.
Thank
Any
you,
other
sir.
queries, participants? Dear participants, do you have any other queries? So, I think there are no more queries. Shall we wind up soon?
Yes, ma'am.
On behalf of IoT Academy, we thank Dr. Pawan sir for the informative, enlightening, and enriching session. And thank you for the amazing and excellent presentation, sir. It was an useful and amazing session. And we thank you for enhancing your knowledge with a commendable presentation. We thank you very much for your efforts, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I thank all the participants for joining the session today. Kindly submit the feedback form using the link that has been posted in the chat box. Thank you all. Have a great day. Thank you, sir. We thank you very much for your efforts. It was an amazing session, sir.
Thank you,
Madam,
ma'am.
when can we receive the certificates?
The certificates will be delivered through mail within 2 days, sir. You
Okay.
can please check in the spam and in promotional messages folder also, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.